Well, welcome to the Church Office Podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and it's a joy to welcome you today to the Church Office Podcast. We love church administration. We love talking about the stuff that happens behind the scenes. And my special guest today is Gaz Sim from who works at Newday.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Good to be here.
Oh, mate, it's excellent. Thanks for giving up your time and busy time getting ready, I'm sure, for the summer to jump on the podcast and fill us in on. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start there, mate. I'd love to know which church you're in and tell us a bit about your role in Newday. That'd be grand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm part of Emmanuel Church in London, which is based in Greenwich. We serve kind of the area of Southeast London. We get people from kind of all around. We meet in a cinema. We meet in the Cinema Odeon on Greenwich Peninsula. Great venue, amazing.
That is so cool.
Screens, like the amount of potential for screens presents, gives you the few challenges around like kids' work and stuff like that in cinema screens. But it's a really nice venue. Everyone knows it, and amazingly for London, 5 hours free parking. That is unheard of.
That
so
is pretty good.
Great venue to meet in. We've done pretty well there. And my role, is working for Newday. Newday is a large Christian event for young people, so 12 to 18-year-olds. We get just over 7,500 come each year in the summer, in the first week of August. And I'm the events manager, so we actually have quite a small team. So I do a lot of that on my own and fly solo a lot. But it's a fantastic event. I was a delegate there years ago, so I've kind of come all through from being a teenager, serving on team, and then getting my staff role as well. Basically everything operational, everything practical. It's event management, projects. You name it, it'll come up.
Yeah.
I've probably had to do it.
And people will connect with you because I guess they've sent their young people to Newday. We have from our church. They've come back absolutely loving it and buzzing. And when I hear all the description about everything that you cover on that weekend or that week is phenomenal. Like all the food vans, all the activities, all the evenings, all the all the breakouts, the main sessions, the worship. I mean, there is so much that goes into this, mate. You guys are doing a fantastic job.
Oh, thanks. It's incredible. Like watching I get the privilege of being that first one on site as well. So you just sort of see this agricultural showground turn into this town, really just full of young people and fun cafes and all the production behind it. And it's amazing because it's an agricultural showground. So a couple of weeks before Newday really is the Norfolk show. So you've got cows and pigs occupying these places. Obviously, we wash it all down really well. For us. And then we're carpeting it and putting up drapes, and even the showground love it because they're like, this is just so different to what we're used to.
It's on another scale, which is great. So if you've ever been involved in organising a church weekend away, times this by 1,000, and then that's how it feels to be Gaz Sims. Yeah. And Gaz, we met through UCAN, didn't we? Both part of UCAN, UK Church Administrators Network. Mate, you've got a passion as much as I have for administration, and tell me about your journey to get involved in UCAN.
Yes, I think, I went on a real journey with the whole gift of administration. I think if you've got what you would maybe call a less public gift, as it were, lots of people tell you lots of encouraging things, and you can kind of be like, oh yeah, that's great, I'm encouraged. And there's, we know there's scriptures where they lay your hands on administrators, and you hear it all, you go, oh, that's really great. But I'd say it kind of just bounced off me. It was a real journey for me, actually, of just accepting like my God-given call and accepting that the gift of administration is a gift. Like, God speaking to me really clearly at a conference years ago. I think it was like 2014, 2015. And I was just standing in a room and I was looking out, and there was probably 2,500, 3,000 people just worshipping. I felt God so clearly say, I'm calling you to facilitate people meeting with Jesus, and look at this room and imagine these people going back to their churches and all that they will bring and the kingdom advance that will happen. And I just was overwhelmed with just the amazing call of God to facilitate the kingdom. And again, just been on that journey over the years of just hearing from God repeatedly, like, facilitate the kingdom. Like I've called you to be a kingdom facilitator. And so I had to really own it. It had to stop just bouncing off. People would encourage me, I'd be like, oh yeah, great. But it had to really penetrate my heart. I had to go some real distance with the Lord on it, just of accepting it and going, you know what, I'm facilitating the kingdom. This is so good.
Yeah, absolutely right. And mine was a similar journey. You had a sense of call to ministry in a sense, but I had no idea what that was going to look like. And I thought, am I a preacher pastor? Do I enjoy caring for people? Do I have gifts there? And then the more and more I got into it, there was this kind of enabling, organizing, facilitating, kind of mobilizing things that you go, actually, God's given me some real gifts. And then you start making the connections that actually this is really a gift of administration, And I know and feel it because my wife always says to me, Gav, can you organize the filing at home in the same way that you do the church, And you realize that I don't have the same gifts that kind of extend into my home life, that when I'm at work, it seems to work because there's a spirit of God at work. And we laugh about it. She's like, yeah, I'm praying this gifts overflow somehow into the home, which we laugh about, and it's great. But yeah, it's great to see churches more and more recognizing it as a gift and deploying people in those roles. And mate, it's great to see you and have a young person on the podcast who's experienced that. And you're doing, I love that, facilitating the kingdom. Just that call to do something like that is incredible. So mate, keep it going.
For the local church, like I know Newday is parachurch, right? But
yeah.
and it's great, and I love Newday, but the local church, everything we do at Newday, we often will make decisions which actually some would question, because they'd be like, oh, how does that really practically serve an event? We go, but because it's about the church, it's just about the local church. And I could talk for hours about my love for the local church. I used to be on staff in my old church down on the south coast. Large church, was the commercial and events manager. So again, using passion for operations, administration, managing buildings and external booking. And again, a lot of that was, I wasn't one of the ministry roles, so it always felt a little bit like, oh, I'm doing this thing over here. But again, we were utilizing the building well in order to pay the bills, in order that giving went towards the ministry of the church. So just embracing that and seeing it and going, I just love the local church. Anything I can do to serve that. So that's, I guess, I kind of dodged the question why to get involved in UCAN. That's exactly why. I love the idea of us coming together as operationally gifted and appointed by God administrators and having a context to do that together and encourage one another. Because trust me, it's a lonely journey sometimes.
Yeah, it can feel lonely, can't it, at times? Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's a joy to serve and privilege to serve our local church in these roles. And I've said before on the podcast, we get the front row seat of seeing God at work in something. And for me, the real privilege of, we can talk about an idea, and then we're the ones who actually take this idea and start to work it through our local church, through the members, and then we actually see it, come to fruition. And then you hear people who are blessed by it and get saved by something that you've done or a project that you've done.
Yeah.
And you see that. We get to see all of that, which is lovely, where somebody in the church might just drop in and just serve in this one area. But we get to see God at work throughout that. And there's just something amazing about that and a real joy about that. So, mate, love it, and love what you're doing. That's great. Love your passion for the local church, mate. My heart beats for that as well. And I want to serve other churches and wider as much as we can. But the gift has been given, isn't it? The gift of administration has been given to strengthen the local church and that body, and enable people to play their part. And we get that job of deploying and releasing people into gifts, and that's exciting, seeing people flourish and in all of that. Mate, let's jump into, tell us a bit about Newday then, and you've clearly got skills of project managing. I feel for the guys, the organizations who are putting on these large conferences. The last few years have been, man, tough, and numbers are down, resources are down. So the context is you're delivering something with less resource, less time, maybe less volunteers, and still within the expectation to go, you've got to deliver big. And Newday's got this reputation, and it wants to keep some of that in a good sense. Mate, how are you approaching your role? Give some of your wisdom and thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the last few years, you couldn't write it, right? Like I think even reflecting recently, it was lockdown versary, wasn't it? A few years ago, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just reflecting on those early days, and even looking back at some of the stuff and being like, wow, we actually had to make this decision, right, to pull this thing. And I think just the journey of letting something really, really die. And I think it's tough in particularly the Christian events world. You hear all these stories of your Glastonbury's that like still selling out within seconds. It's just the sheer excitement ready for it, right? And whereas we would all be more in the position of like, it still feels like a bit of a trudging thing. Like, And I think our journey was, God, are you saying that this is time, right? Like we can't just assume that you want us to bring this thing back. And so we made the decision, 2020, well, let's see what happens. And then really early, I think it was September 2020, we decided 2021 is just not going to happen. It's not a good idea. It doesn't feel likely. And I think at that moment, it was the moment of let's take a year. I don't think we communicated anything. We didn't really do socials. We were like, we're not going to try and force anything. And just gave it over to God. And I think the passion came back of going over. As we prayed, we were like, this is the thing that we just feel God is still in this. God's saying, go again. And I think the practical side of that, I mean, 2022, I don't know any Christian event organizer that would say they had an easy ride coming into summer last year. It was just, you're talking years of just cost of living crises. You've got inflation rising at the greatest rate. Obviously, COVID has changed everything in the events industry. You would have been paying one price before COVID. Well, there's far fewer people, right? So even crew, things on tech crew or anything like that. But rates have just gone through the roof. And then you had the whole fuel crisis at the same time. So just driving stuff to the site, just costing just exponentially more. Just I think real challenges of everything that's been going on. But 2022 came around, and you do sort of stand there and go, do people want this? What is this going to be like? But you know what? That first night, I mean, I was like an emotional wreck on the first night. I must have cried multiple times during that. I'm not much of a crier, so that's saying a lot. Just watching young people flood onto the field that would normally be a big top, but I think we might cover that one later. Just running across the field, and then first night response, and just seeing hundreds of young people just flock forward. Some responding to the gospel for the first time. That's amazing. But some just coming forward and saying, I don't know what it is, but I just want more of Jesus. I mean, young people coming up to our team saying, I just want more of him. And you realize just the isolation that young people faced during this COVID period. And with all the best will in the world, like you cut off proper human contact, particularly with that generation. It just had a massive impact. And churches obviously did amazing things, and there are fantastic youth groups and amazing youth, like props to youth leaders, right? Like running youth work during the pandemic. Those guys are amazing. Honestly, I've done youth work, and the thought of doing it all online and we're not trying to replace that. That's what Newday's for. But that moment of just being able to say, right, let's realign, let's come back to God. It was an amazing experience. We just saw so many incredible stories, and practically speaking, challenging, right? And for so many moments just going into 2022, we're like, well, how are we going to make this thing happen? Like, that's going to cost how much? That kind of thing. But honestly, standing there in that field, watching thousands of young people encounter Jesus, I mean, it makes it all worthwhile.
It's all worthwhile then, isn't it? And that's one of the huge, great benefits of Newday, is just other young people coming together, who might be in a church of 10 in their youth group, 11 in 20 in their youth group, who come and they see thousands of young people loving Jesus and hearing the good news of Jesus, and it just has lasting impact, mate. And there's fruit there, isn't it? We trust God, love it. At the end of 1 Corinthians 15, we trust God that our labor's not in vain, and he takes these things and he uses them. And that is sweet. People who come back and go, I encountered Jesus at Newday.
Yeah.
That everything's worthwhile then, isn't it? All the hassle of dealing with tents and various other things.
And the baptisms that I think nearly not a month won't go by where we get a message from somebody being like, oh, in church this week we baptized X number of young people, and one of the vehicles for them making a commitment was Newday, or the moment they decide. And it's something. I had an email even this week, someone that just went to a church that wasn't their church, happened to turn up to it, and there was baptisms, and they're baptizing young people. It's full of young people. You go, this is great. This is what we want. We want churches around the UK to be seeing salvation and young people just going on and maturing in their faith. And we love hearing those stories. So if anyone's got any stories, let us know. It's really hard to get them.
Yeah, I love that. So give me kind of an idea of what it might look like practically for you in kind of, I mean, Newday's got some clear goals and aims of what it wants to do. And I guess each year you're building on the pattern and the rhythms that you've already got in place. What does it look like on that kind of, what are you doing now? A few months in, the summer's coming, the end of March. What does that look like for you? What kind of things are you working on now?
Yeah, so we're in that sort of funny part of this. It was the sort of the calm before the storm. I'd describe kind of the early spring, late winter, early spring as. At this point is when we're starting to get, so we've got program deadlines coming up, like what are our seminars going to look like, who's going to speak in our main sessions, what's the worship team looking like, that kind of thing. All your big decisions, your big contracts, anything that's not an annual contract, that's all sort of signed off where you're hoping to get them signed up for Christmas. Sometimes it don't quite work like that. So yeah, a lot of the stuff at the moment is the plugging in around that, and really the rubber starts hitting the road if there's deadlines will be coming up. So we've got another price break at the end of April, but that's also our kind of group coordinators compare deposit, so they pay their balance by the end of April. So it's a really key time for us. That really shapes a lot of what the event's going to look like. So dealing with a lot of that just around helping people, because we get a lot of youth leaders would block book tickets and then effectively sell them on to their young people. So this period of time is really key for us of helping them sell those tickets and helping them build the momentum. But yeah, I mean, a lot of very practical stuff in terms of like all the different documentation you send out, like writing the group coordinator handbook, making sure all the information we're sending out to delegates and team gets up. We've got our team leaders day coming up in about a month. So that's when we gather team leaders from the event. So a lot of time into that of like, how do we really use that time well, effectively? How can we train people? Many people say it's a really key day for them before the event, because it might be the only time they really touch in terms of with others. So yeah, that kind of where we're at the moment, I guess. The rubber's really going to hit the road very soon.
Yeah. So when does it get a bit hairy? Are you talking like July? This is, no one's taking a holiday in July. We're all just full on 100% in this.
Yeah, so I guess I should probably throw in there as well that aside from myself working full-time on Newday, there's Ben who leads the event, and he's 1 day a week and that's it. So it's very much we're a small team. We're probably going to have some extra help coming in for the summer, in maybe another person, but yeah, a lot of it is carried by me and finding any volunteers that have got any time to spare. So June, July is July is crazy. It just is what it. That's when camping allocation, all of that kind of stuff starts. June again, you're really hitting into the people really start to engage with this and go, oh, we need to work this out. We need to contact about this, and not having to pay for stuff. Right, money starts flying out of the account at a rate of knots as well, which is always. So yeah, that's June, July. They're not restful months, but that's what it is, right? You accept a job in the summer. You're not going to start taking, holiday in June and July. You kind of come to expect that.
Yeah. It's great. And I guess you're dealing with so many contractors outside the church in terms of services that you bring on. Have you found that you've built really good relationships with people and gospel opportunities as people go, what in the world is this Christian organization doing? How do they get 7,000 young people here? It must have some sort of impact. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I think we have got some contractors that would be Christians, and we've actually had one of the things that we've had the privilege of doing, I guess, is to actually help some businesses that were starting out. And I mean, this is before my time, but businesses that were maybe starting out on a journey and have actually, we've helped them to grow, which I think is a really good thing with a couple of Christian businesses. So that's one thing, is that actually we have an opportunity to work with people and help to bring their business on. Contractors wise, we're dealing with a lot of people that aren't Christians. Some of them not engaging, they're just dropping some off and then they're gone again. But it's certainly interesting seeing some of the contractors maybe like floating around a little bit and listening in and being like, oh, it's interesting. Like we're preaching the gospel on basically every night. If the gospel doesn't come out in every main meeting, I think we're falling short of what we're being called to do. So I haven't got any stories. I'd love to have stories of being like, oh, we pray for this person, and there may be some from over the years that I don't know of. But working with contractors, you're aligning two very different things, and it can be quite jarring because you're aware that what you're on the page of and what they're on the page of. And to be honest, I think you can almost feel like an inadequacy in you, that you go, oh, you're working with like the big boys, because all these other events, we're all using the same people. So we've contracts that could be at Glastonbury or Reading or Leeds, and you're like, wow, what do you think of us? But what I like to think is that they really value us, and I like and hope to think that the way we do business is good. The Showground, we've got a great relationship with the Showgrounds. We absolutely love the team there. They're really for us, and particularly the ground staff. Some of them have been working the Showground for decades and decades. But they're always really pleased to see us. We bring the ground staff in for a fried breakfast with us during pre-week, like just building those relationships wherever you can, really. But Yeah, I'd say we've got really strong links with contractors. But then you also get the thing of, COVID. Sadly, some contractors aren't able to deliver in the way they were. So
Yeah,
looking for new contractors is always interesting, because you kind of do, you get sympathetic
yeah,
contractors as well. So when you lose one of those, you start to go, oh, kind of explain who we are again and why we do things maybe a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah, yeah. And it's been really interesting that whole industry. We talked before about events, tech guys. Like I've known loads of PA guys and tech guys who've, during COVID have like had to go and get other jobs because there just wasn't, the level of work that was there, and we've kind of lost some really good people in that process. And I know some of that is coming back and it's changing. But yeah, it has shaken up quite a lot, and I can feel that sense of, man, it's not been an easy couple of years, by any stretch. In terms of like our listeners here who are, church administrators, operations guys, we might have some church leaders that are listening in as well. Um, you know, give us a little, how can we support what Newday's doing? How can we get involved? Yeah, is there anything that we can help with in that sense?
I mean, I would always put almost a cop out answer, but pray.
Yeah.
I think again, as I've been on a journey as someone that's a very practical person, of not always taking the most practical response first, and actually bringing it to the Lord. Right,
Mm,
I know that we can achieve nothing if He's not in it. So
yeah.
praying would be great. We value prayers. I think one of the things, and I think I would speak for all Christian events when I say this, and I can say that quite confidently, having a relationship with a few
Mm,
of them, is you know is we need volunteers, we need team,
yeah.
we need people
Yeah.
to come and make this happen. There will be a lot of people in churches around the UK, particularly with an event like Newday, where it's for young people, that will go, oh, I'm not relevant to the young people, or I can't
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't serve them. Do you know what? The young people, they need spiritual mums and dads,
Yeah.
and they need the
Yeah.
spiritual mums and dads that put their arm around them and just say, you're okay. And we've got youth leaders and we've got other team that they need that. They need that influence. So
Mm,
I guess one of the things would be that it would be, are there people in your church that can volunteer and that can come to events like Newday? Obviously, I'm going to plug Newday, but any of these
yeah.
events, honestly, don't think you're not relevant. Don't think you've not got something to bring, because every role that is played at that event is facilitating the kingdom. Like I said
Yeah.
earlier, whether it's, you could be cleaning a toilet, cooking a meal for a team, preaching from the main stage. They're all facilitating the kingdom of God coming.
Yeah.
I think we really need that. And we need people that have got specific skills, right? We need people that are medics. We need people
Yeah.
that can operate cameras. Like, there's so many different things that can serve and bless an event like Newday. And in the whole adult church, I always say it, I'm like, in the whole adult church in the UK, surely we can gather 900, 1,000 volunteers. Like,
Yeah.
surely there's enough adults. But it's just catching the vision that the Newday is for young people. Sure, that's
Yeah.
what the program's designed for. But they need people. They need adults from churches, people that love Jesus and want to serve, to come and do that. And you know what? You'll meet Jesus in the process, and you'll have a
Yeah.
great time as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's great, isn't it? I love that. I love your heart for that. And I meet so many church leaders who are passionate about reaching the next generation with the gospel, and to connect into something like yourselves, to serve, to shape it, to be involved in it. It would be great. And so yeah, so the best way to get involved is sign up at the website and get involved there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the newdaygeneration.org is the website, and there's a Be On Team page, which basically highlights all the different teams that you can get involved in. And obviously, am I allowed to plug? I've
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
got a price break at the end of April. We've got a discount for new churches that are coming to the event for the first time. So if there's churches here and you're looking for an event and you just don't have somewhere you're kind of taking your young people at the moment, check out Newday, newdaygeneration.org. We would love to hear from you, welcome you to the event for the first time. Yeah, you would be more than welcome. There's plenty of information on our website, but you can get in touch as well.
Um,
We love having more young people coming to the event, and it's not, do you know what we always say all the time? We're not about building a big event. If we don't grow, but lots of people encounter Jesus, that's cool by us.
yeah.
But we want young people. We want as many young people as possible to come together and to encounter Jesus, because it just does them the world of good, and we know it does.
Yeah, it's life changing, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's great, mate. Thank you for that. And absolutely, you can do a plug. And mate, would love to have. We'll stick some stuff on the socials and give
Yeah, great.
some
Thanks.
links here of how people can get connected. Mate, you've obviously got so much experience and so much that we can learn from you. Kind of give me some top tips then for people working in churches who might be organizing events or project managing things. Give me a couple of things that you go, hey, this is a go-to. This is how I'm thinking. This is how I might approach it. Throw me some wisdom here.
Yeah, I think for me, and I get it again because I've worked in church for a lot of my career. I think when it comes to any project, I'm going to give the obvious answer, but that's planning. It's
Yeah.
just it's so important to plan what you're going to do.
Mm.
If you don't have a plan, you're not you just won't get there. And it's
Yeah.
there can be a lot of I think it'd be a lot of challenges within that planning process. So for me, I'm on my own a lot. So bouncing off of other people, and there's probably lots of other people that would be in a similar
Mm.
position. How do I plan well? How do I do that? Like this looks okay to me. So for me, I've found people that maybe aren't working directly with me through Newday, but having contacts, people you can call on, talk to, run stuff through. It might be others, it might be other people from other churches even, but having
Yeah.
people that can look at that and go, oh, this feels realistic. This doesn't feel realistic. If you're working on your own a lot, that can really help. But as with all plans, and this like jars with even how I would normally operate. I've learned like if you write a plan and you're just so determined that you need to stick to your plan and you're not flexible and you're not willing to flex here and there and go, oh, this needs to react, this needs to react. Um, as I'm sure lots of people have experience of in church work, in church ministry, it doesn't always go to
Yeah.
the exact T and dotted I of your plan, and just
Yeah.
being ready to react and not being so precious about your plan. Oh, but my plan, my plan, my plan. Sometimes you have to be a bit of flex, but you want to plan for sure, but you want to be prepared to flex and change that plan because we're working with people and things change all the time. So I think that would be a real big lesson I've learned. And using tools, like there's some great tools out there to help you plan, things like Trello,
Yeah.
communications tools like Slack. Like don't yeah, we shouldn't despise the things of the world in that respect. Like
Yeah.
Trello can be amazing, and there's so many different features and plugins that you can use to help you plan it. So use the tools that are available. Lots of these are free as well. You know, they don't cost anything. So anything that's free that could
Mm.
serve, find it and
Mm.
use it. Use it as much as you possibly can. So yeah, planning, using the right tools. I think purpose. So I always talk about purpose. I think when you're embarking on anything,
Yeah.
if you define your real purpose, like why are we doing this? Because you can have lots of good ideas, and I think in church life often we'll have lots of good ideas, and you have to really hone like what's the genuine reason for this? Because we could do a lot of things
Yeah.
unless we've really grasped something and gone, this is the purpose. Let's define what our measurable outcome is on this. Like
Yeah.
what is going to change? So if it particularly in something in a kingdom project, like what's the why and what is
Yeah.
the result that you're going to see from that? So if
Yeah.
you're starting a new project around, we're going to start a mum and toddler group maybe. What's that going to look like? Well, what's the why? Like, where's that going to lead to? How are we going to measure to see that we've seen a success in that? Because we could all go and do that. We could all go and start a project, but how are we going to measure it? Because trust me, along the way, it's very easy to start to doubt the whole thing in the first
Yeah.
place. Are we doing the right? But if you've got the why, if you've got the purpose,
Yeah.
as you then start to enact those plans, it makes it a lot easier on the days where you're
Yeah.
up against it, things are going wrong, you're feeling down. Oh no, wait, I can very easily go back. Here's my plan, and it says we're building this. This is why we're doing it. And this is the result that we're going to see. And particularly in our line of work, where the result is often people and is often the gospel expanding. That's encouraging on a rainy
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. I love that, and it's a real joy, I think, for me to get alongside our senior leadership team or senior leader and go, what are some of the things that you really want to see this year? What are some of the priorities for the church that you go, if we could do this, it would make a huge difference? And I think one of those for us was we did this project called Eating After the Meeting, and the guys were like, hospitality is a real challenge since COVID. How do we model that? How do we gather the church together to eat together and just enjoy that kind of fellowship? And it's like, can you put on 500 meals and feed, once a month over a whole year? And we're looking at that going, oh man, that's going to be hard. But, making that link to that kind of purpose, making that link to that, we really believe this is going to serve the church. You then kind of trace that line back and go, right, yeah, we're going to need to do a catering team. We're going to need to start training people. We're going to need to start all these logistic things, all the food, but there's a joy in it because you've made that connection and you see the purpose. And I think you're absolutely right. If you can see that and link that to ministry team and work together in that, you do find real joy in it and desire in it and passion in it and connection. And yeah, those things are good. So working alongside people, bringing your plan, bringing what our expertise are to offer that and say, what do you want to see this year? I love hearing about those conversations with leaders, and leaders have got hundreds of ideas, and some of them are terrible, but some of them are great. And we can take a great idea and turn it into something actually that really serves. And I'm sure people have got experience and ideas about that. So, mate, anything else? Any other top tips before we finish it off?
Top tips. Well, I mean, I could make many tips. I mean, when it comes to so like a project like mine, which is an event in the summer, one of the biggest things is like it can be very easy when your project is, I start and said, well, I'm already talking about 2024 now, right? But really the rubber hits the road in September. Here we go. Let's make it happen. When you've got a project that's maybe a longer term thing, is if you don't have frequent measurable outcomes, you can get a tendency to you don't get many chances to celebrate the win, and you don't celebrate the win until you finally deliver. So particularly for something like that, where it's an annual thing you run, an event or a conference, but also even if it's like, I don't know, building projects or something that takes a lot longer, it's just having measurable outcomes along the way. Like where are my win points? Because if you've got a year to do something, and I know like I have a tendency to procrastinate, and I always have. I used to do my homework the night before it was due in. I know I probably shouldn't confess something like that on a call for those that are administratively and operationally gifted, but that can be a real tendency for us as people, right? So setting things along the way, it may be that the final product is one big thing along the way down the line, but where are my points? Where are my markers? When am I going to go, I've ticked off, I've ticked off, I've ticked off. And if you like me, you're a tick list lover. It's saying that, well, this month we're going to achieve this month we're going to achieve this month. It just keeps you going along the way, and you're not just looking for this big point down the line. And celebrate often, celebrate the wins, celebrate the highs. I think it's really important to do that, and to just acknowledge when things go well, and when you tick things off your list, celebrate it, because again, on those days where it doesn't feel like there's a lot to celebrate, you can see all the good stuff that you've done.
That's great. And I think you started out the podcast talking about prayer as well, and us being able to engage in prayer as we go, and celebrating the grace of God at work, and seeing God's grace, acknowledging that, and just enjoying that and celebrating those wins. You're absolutely right. It just helps and serves. And people who are involved in the projects and stuff that we do, they just think they're doing a job. They don't realize that actually they're having a spiritual effect on the church. They're having the grace of God is at work in their life, and they're the last people to see it. And so being able to just stop and say as a team, do you know what? Let's just enjoy this for a minute and say, God has enabled us to feed, 500 people 12 times this last year. That's grace. That's God at work. And we've been able to use the gifts that he's given us to enable that. And let's celebrate. And I think you're absolutely right. Little touch points like that just encourage the team to move forward and build some momentum. And you do need that kind of momentum building, don't you? Particularly when you're doing things on an annual basis. To see that happen. Gaz, mate, love talking to you, and loved your heart for the local church. Love what you're doing and your passion to serve young people. You're making a huge difference. Love the fact that your gospel. Love the fact that you want people to encounter Jesus. And thanks for what you do, mate, to serve the wider church. It's great to see. Any questions for Gaz? Any questions for me? Please get in contact with the podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Love to connect you with Newday if you're interested and you've got the summer to serve. And Gaz is right, all ages. Not just I'm in my 20s, I can do this. We know young people who are impacted by all ages and all backgrounds, and so come along and serve, get involved in it, and there'll be links for you to be able to kind of connect into that. Gaz, love to hear more about maybe we'll connect with you after Newday and just find out some of like the success and what's been happening. Love to do that as well.
We'd love to. We love sharing stories. We love sharing stories of what God's doing.
It'd be great. Guys, please check out the website. There's new resources added every week, and thanks for listening to the podcast, and we hope it's a blessing to you. All right, see you next time.